Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm here with my homie, Nick Orlando, a Marine veteran as well. Thank you for your service, brother.
I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man.
It's
Nick,
cool to be here.
Welcome here. Tell the world about yourself, man.
Yeah, man. So I was just, I was telling you on the way here, I was thinking about my little life resume. I said, damn, this bio is a little too long. So let's see. I graduated high school in 2003. I graduated from a little town in the East Bay called Pittsburgh. No H. As we say, we got no haters in that town. So a little town in the East Bay, Pittsburgh. Graduated 2003, and then right after high school, I wanted to wrestle. I was a wrestler by trade. So that's what I was going to do. I was going to actually have some scholarships waiting for me for college. But I think at 17, I just told my dad, like, you know what, personally, I'm going to mess this up. Like, I'm not going to be able to do college. I'm not in the right mind to study. So I went to the Marine Corps at 17, graduated top of my class. And then from there, I went in as a parachute rigger. It was a phenomenal job. Jumped out of airplanes. It's as fun as it sounds. And I got to meet some cool people. And then I got attached to 1st Recon Battalion. And then I went through the pipeline. I went through pre-BRC. Never even went through BRC, which is the finishing stage. Mm-hmm. What happened is they just ended up deploying me. And I ended up just doing on-the-job training, OJT. And I was a point man with 1st Recon Battalion.
Wow.
Did a couple of tours with them out there and got to hang out with some modern-day gladiators. It was just a phenomenal thing to go through, an experience that I'll never forget, and what I've learned from those guys. And I've known these guys now for 20-plus years, and a lot of guys in those communities. And then after the Marine Corps, I wasn't exactly sure what I was going to do like everyone else. So I went back home for a little bit. I worked for this environmental company, and I was in charge of a water treatment system. Like at 22 years old, I had like 10 employees with me. It was in Concord, California. And my job was to basically clean water, rain runoff from the mountains. I guess back in the 1950s, they had these oil tanks back that was supplying airlines. Mm-hmm. Well, that iron corroded and all that oil was coming through. So I was cleaning that water. So I was doing that for a couple years, right? Still trying to figure it out. And then, that's why I said the bio keeps going. And then I worked for the VA as a police officer. And that was kind of cool. So I was working at the VA in San Francisco. Got to meet some cool people there. Learned a little bit, about police work on there. But I had aspirations to go back to college. So went to DVC. And then as I was going to DVC, I became a federal investigator for the Department of Labor. That was another cool gig, man. I was literally traveling all through California. And one of the main gigs I was doing was agricultural. So I got to go through Napa, the central part of California. They call it the Salad Bowl. So I was helping farm workers make sure they're getting paid. So they always think that we would come in with our badges that were La Migra. And that wasn't really the case.
Right.
We would deal with what they call the Maridomo. So what people don't understand this is when these farmers are getting these workers, obviously they don't have the connections through Mexico and all these other places. So these Maridomos, they've got these connections, right? And the problem is they would say, hey, look, you come over here, we'll pay you $18 an hour, or they do it by load. And then they show up, and instead of getting the pay 18, they'd pay them 14 and pocket the 4. So as a Department of Labor, we would come in and we would essentially not shut down the operation. We had the power to do that, but we were directly dealing with the CEO. So I'm at the table negotiating whether it's labor violations. I'm literally sitting with people who own a $300-400 million wine operation in Napa, talking about violations of the law, of labor law. So that was another eye-opening, just dealing with high-level people like that, sitting around a table of lawyers. So learned a lot from that, learned a lot about negotiation, learned a lot about how to communicate on a higher level. And then from there, I got into UC Berkeley. I was studying over there, had aspirations to be a lawyer. So right before I'm literally about to graduate Berkeley, a guy of mine that was at 1st Recon Battalion, I won't say his name, he was working at Goldman Sachs, graduated Stanford, top of his class. Okay, so he was like, hey, I want to open a cannabis business. Dropped out of UC Berkeley, got into the cannabis world. We were at Hollister, California, 1841 Airway Drive. So remember, we had a 10,000 square foot warehouse, and we were in the business of extracting oils at that time. Millions of dollars worth of contracts at that time. Mm-hmm. What happened was he ended up going to Israel, and this is a little kind of, let me back up. We had a partner with a company in Israel, so we flew out prior to that, brought him in, and they had this kind of immersion system. So what people don't know, and I didn't know, it's not like I'm a plant-lit guy, but when you're doing cloning, it's still tedious. It's a hand-to-hand operation. There's not a mass system that can auto-populate copying, I guess, seeds, right?
Right.
And that's what causes the infection or diseases in plants. It's that human touch. So apparently they had this immersion system where you drop a clone in there and it would clone rapid without having the process of hands.
Right.
So we merged with that. Now my buddy goes to Israel, literally has a mental breakdown.
Oh no.
Literally sends us a video with Israeli police arrest him. I go to work the next day, we're locked out the building. And they're like, hey, you've breached the contract, this is no longer yours. So that was a whole nother story. So I ended up going to court with them, winning a portion, selling my stake in that, and then I was kind of stuck in life like, okay, shoot. Now I don't have a job. I went to this, I sold this. I did have a wad of cash because I won. And then from there, I just bought my first 2 investment properties in Arizona. And then my buddy Zane Jacobs, who we were doing the operation with, I was partnering with him on that. He was like, dude, just get into real estate. He was already a mortgage broker or not a mortgage broker. He was in mortgages already. And he was like, man, get into some mortgages or get into real estate. I'm already doing mortgages. We'll see how that goes. And I think I had the same thought like everyone else, like everyone could be a realtor. Like, I'm not exactly sure this is for me, but I dabbled into it. And honestly, I never looked back. It was probably the best thing that happened for me. Got into real estate, worked on the business, met quite a few different people. I'm still meeting people. And man, that's pretty much been it. Like I said, it was a long ass bio.
I love it. I love it, bro. Man, so many different moving pieces in your life.
Yeah.
And it's something that I just see and I can totally relate with is no matter what happened, it's say, what's the next step?
Right.
What's the next step? Hey, Dad, college ain't for me, man. I'm going to go serve my country. Hey, I'm going to be a parachute rigger. All right, cool. I get attached to First Recon.
Yeah.
Boom, I'm in deployment. Now I got to learn how to operate on OJT,
Exactly.
dude.
Oh, exactly,
Like, that's what you do.
Yeah.
And totally relatable in that is like, man, when I stepped into real estate, I had no idea what I was doing. I grew a mullet, bleached it. COVID happened. I still sold 15 houses. I was like, man, I'm good at this.
Right.
Had no idea how to operate a business. Right.
And a piggyback out there, like you said, you had a mohawk. This is what I love about real estate is people have the assumption you have to be a certain way. Like it's either you're super classy and you've got the kind of the suit. Nah, man, I see dudes in shorts all day selling properties. You just got to find your niche in the game, right? Everyone has their own genre of people they hang with. So out there, you ain't got to dress all cool, man. You could just be whatever and be yourself. And as long as the people love you.
I found that too. Be original, be yourself,
Exactly.
right? Like be your authentic self and they know automatically they can trust you. Now, if you're a suited and booted guy or gal, live that.
Right.
I know a bunch of great agents that's their attire. That's how they like to operate. They dress good, feel good, work good. Right. Like that's cool. For someone like you and me, just I know when we spoke last week or 2 weeks ago on the panel, it was like, oh man, I totally relate with this guy. Like,
no, for sure. Right. Same here.
Exactly. I'll do open houses in flip flops, man. It's hot outside. They know it's hot.
Yeah,
I'm in shorts and a polo. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And don't get me wrong, there's a time and place to throw some slacks on. And I do like to throw some slacks on here and there. But for me, it's being comfortable. And most people I think I deal with in my business now, I've already kind of grown that genre of people I hang out with. You know what I mean? They don't have an expectation I'm going to come suited and booted.
Right.
Like I got a guy that's black belt, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is my client right now. We have a listing for him. And it's the coolest thing to work with this person, especially when it's just, the same people that they know, and it just makes life easier, man.
As long as they could trust you, and you're going to give them everything you got on the business side. You're going to protect their asset. You're going to protect their equity. You're going to protect their purchase, right?
Exactly.
All that good stuff.
Exactly.
And I think that's really where the value lies, right?
Yeah.
Like really getting deep. So I know you got a jiu-jitsu tournament coming up. I know your wrestling background and everything like that, man. Walk me through in your younger years when you were starting to wrestle and maybe you went through an injury, maybe you had a couple tough losses.
Yeah.
What was that like, man?
I never really had any crazy injuries in wrestling.
Okay.
You get the typical shoulder, twist, ankle, pop thumb, rolled ankle. But I started wrestling at 6th grade. My dad comes from a line of football players. And again, I always knew I was never going to be 6 foot. My mom's Filipino. So thanks to the Filipino blood, I'm short. But my dad he still coaches for Pittsburgh High School, and they're one of the top ranked football teams in California. People don't know that. They've been on top colleges' radars for years now. And his uncle, who was a Hall of Famer in our town, was a football coach as well. So he thought I would have aspirations to be a football player. He wanted me to go to Notre Dame. That just wasn't the case. His brother, my Uncle Paul, was a wrestler in high school, and he was like, hey, maybe he'll like wrestling. So in 6th grade, I did the first class, got my ass kicked all day, but I fell in love with it. I love the physicality of it. I love that I can, out-condition somebody and take them down. So wrestling for me was like an outlet. I loved it. It was something that my brain needed. I didn't really realize that as a young kid. I'm always moving 100 miles an hour. That's why I still do jiu-jitsu to this day, because I need an outlet. So for me, wrestling helped me excel in a lot of different places, in school, just in life. And, man, it was cool. I got to go to North Dakota as a sophomore in high school. I played second at nationals in Greco. Oh, wow. And, man, it was a good time to kind of get to that type of level, to reach that level. And it didn't come from natural talent. I mean, obviously I had some talent, but, man, it just came from just the grind. Hitting that wrestling room every day, 2-3 practices a day, 2-3 hours, the running, the beat down on the body, but I just loved it, man. So, like I said, I got some injuries along the way, but nothing crazy, thank God. And then what was your other question? I'm sorry.
About maybe you had a tough loss. Oh, that really catapulted your success.
So the tough loss I got, that I wouldn't say it catapulted my success. Well, I guess it did. Because I guess now that I'm thinking about it, let me just get to that point. So that national tournament, when I went into that, there was rankings. I wasn't ranked at all. Honestly, I didn't have a care in the world when I went into that. So I already took state for Greco. So when I went to nationals, I was like, oh, man, my parents are not going to be there. I'm just going to kind of chill out. I met some people. I had this calmness about it. So when I went into the tournament, I was very calm in every match, and I just kept winning. I kept battling people. I kept winning. I was meeting people from Texas, meeting people from Oregon, and I just kept going. And in that process, I realized a couple of things. When I went to the national camp, they already had their favorites. So again, I was on nobody's radar. I was a nobody. I get to the tournament, and the top coaches were already kind of pre-designed to go coach certain people. So I wouldn't say I was getting leftover coaches, but I was getting coaches that people weren't looking out for. But these coaches that I had still had talent. And I think they were underutilized. And so they kept being in my corner. And the funny part is all of a sudden I'm day 2, I'm undefeated. And next thing you know, I'm going to the finals. I got these top coaches trying to come in my corner. Hey, man, let me let you coach. In my mind, initially, I was like, all right, yeah, I'm going to get this top coach. But then something in my spirit told me, nah, man, these other dudes been rocking with you since day 1. Why would I have those? So I personally told them, I told them, I said, hey, look, respectfully, I'm going to decline. I had these coaches here the whole time, and I'm going to keep them. And here's the funny part. I was calm the whole time. I get to the national stage. I go to this kid against in Pennsylvania. He's a freshman, and I got nervous for the first time. I knew that's the reason why I lost. For the first time in that whole tournament, I got nervous. I ended up losing 10-8, and it was crushing for me. It was crushing because I was like, man, you can get this far and be able to taste the success and then get it stripped from you that quick. So it was a lesson learned for me that you can still work your ass off. You can still have a good time, but it's always not going to play out like the way it's going to play out. And you got to kind of take them lessons. And if you don't, it can be a negative. Right. You know, if you're not really sitting and like I told you in that talk we did, I didn't debrief myself. I didn't really talk to myself, understanding what the process was. Luckily, as I got older, I started to recognize that, yeah, man, you need to take them L's sometimes. So it was a good loss to have, and it made me recognize that, hey, man, like you're gonna have to get past that.
Right. Just because you lost just because you lost doesn't mean you failed.
Right.
You were unranked going into that, dude.
Right.
Getting second place is phenomenal.
No, I know, but you know, it's like you get right to the finish line, and you're like, damn, man, like I why didn't I win? You know what I mean? So it ate me a little bit, but I carry that forever.
Yeah. So how did it feel after that loss, and what'd you take away from it?
Man, I mean, it was a little depressing for a minute. I didn't think it was gonna be. Like I said, I went in there just not really caring, and then at the end, I realized I cared way more than I thought. And so the lesson is, hey, man, you know, well, I'll say this: if I would have took it more serious, I'm sure I would have won. So that was another lesson. One, you need to take things serious, right? At all times, especially if this is your passion. That was my passion. Right. Problem is I didn't have a care in the world. It helped me be calm, but it affected me at the end. If I would have had that spirit going in the whole time, like, this is what I'm going to do, I'm going to win this, I think I would have won it. But because I didn't have that mindset going in, that's probably why I lost in the finals.
So you take those skills and you go and apply them into the military. How did that help your career in the military?
Oh, bro, like, I'm going to be honest with you. Not to talk shit, but boot camp physically was nothing compared to wrestling, bro. And I tell people all the time, this is why when you go to UFC and you see the top contenders, the wrestlers. Right. There's that mindset. Or you go to, and I met a lot of people in the Marine Corps who are wrestlers, and they're just phenomenal Marines. You know, so for me, wrestling in the physical realm, it wasn't even no issue. And mentally, it's always prepared me for stuff. If no one's ever wrestled before, I say have your kids do it if you haven't done it. And I'll tell you, there is a change that will happen. It's not physically, it's a mental game, because automatically day one in wrestling, they're going to meet their limit. Like it's not like, oh, it's like, hey, we're drilling. It's a 2-hour practice. You will probably throw up your first wrestling practice.
Right.
And it doesn't get easier. That's the funny part. And the coaches tell you that. This is not going to get easier, because as more conditioned you get, you're just going to keep pushing the limits. So for me, the mental game that it developed in me through wrestling has helped me succeed through the Marine Corps, through my business, through issues, or whether it's problems with my marriage, like everyone else. I've been married for 15 plus years. So it just helped me be stronger mind person consistently. So wrestling has done wonders for me, man.
I was going to ask that in your marriage and your fatherhood career.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
How does that background of wrestling and instilling that discipline and pushing through and persevering through everything really help? 15 years in today's world, that's almost an eternity. And a lot of people don't make it that far anymore because they quit.
Right. When I tell people I've been married for 15 years, they kind of give me that look like, oh man, really? Which is kind of sad, right? Because you're like, well, isn't that what everyone strives for? But I guess the reality now is, and it's unfortunate. I've talked to a couple of my buddies, again, throwing no names out there, and they're getting a divorce, and it seems around the 10-year mark is really when it gets it's that kind of next level push. But not to kind of veer out, but to answer your question, how to help me in my marriages. Again, I just remember, hey man, nothing has been tougher than wrestling to me personally. Like, so if I can continuously got through that, and I still get through it because I do jiu-jitsu and there's a lot of wrestlers that I roll with on the mat, I can pretty much get through anything. Yeah, so it's helped me to deal with, it's not that bad. That's how I kind of look at it.
And how does your wife take that, man? Coming, like she knows you very well. She's been married to you 15 years. Like, she understands what she's getting from Nick, right? But like, when you guys are in those dark moments, how do you guys connect, man? I know you talk about debriefing, and I really want to get down to that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm first to talk about. I have no problem talking about this, and I was talking to my buddy about this literally 2 days ago. Man, therapy has helped us. I mean, I went through therapy through the VA.
Yep.
I think like most military, if you've done a couple tours, and I think people need therapy in general, even outside the military, and you shouldn't be ashamed to go ask questions or get help, because there are some unanswered things you have in your mind. And I think sometimes friends and families don't have the right answers. You need to seek some professional help. So I think for me, the therapy helped me to, and one thing I'm gonna say on that too is, don't get caught up on your first therapist. Look around.
Right.
It resonates. See who resonates with you and your significant other. Can this person be a middle ground between you and your wife, and or you and your significant other, and make sure that they're hearing both sides and try to give some great advice. So for me, the therapy did wonders. We still got to go every once in a while, because you got to kind of reboot the system. Like anything else.
Everything needs maintenance, man.
Get the maintenance. Yep. Get the maintenance done. So
go to the motor pool, man. Motor pool Mondays, bro.
Exactly, man. Exactly. I need an oil change. So, man, therapy, do that, and then, listen to each other.
So did you do personal therapy after you got out of the military?
Yeah, I did personal military therapy first.
Okay.
And that kind of got me into kind of that therapy world. And I was dealing with just military centric issues first. And then from there, realizing that spilled over to our relationship, right? And then you get into therapy and you realize it's not just the military. You find out there's some trauma, there's child trauma, dude. Right? My wife had trauma, I had trauma, or there were certain cultural differences.
Yep.
Certain things that she believed how we should have raised our kids, and it always ate her, and she never thought that I listened to her. And so, things come out, and then if you can get past that, you grow stronger. So we grew much stronger over the years. Like, we have a great relationship. Not to say we don't have problems, but we just have a much funner relationship now.
I love that, man. I love that. For me personally, man, when I got out, I had a problem. I didn't realize I had a problem. My uncle dragged me to the VA. I got jumped one night downtown, right? I got my face kicked in. I got my face kicked in.
Damn.
And my uncle woke me up the next day, because my girlfriend at the time was like, hey, he's jacked up. Like, we need to get him some help. And they knew I was struggling with alcohol and other substances and stuff. So they dragged me to the VA. I get a therapist. I go through the motions. I went through the motions. I was like, man, I can't trust anybody. I'm just going to tell them what they want to hear. And I did that. And I did that. And I don't regret it because it's something I had to grow through. Exactly. Well, later on, during COVID, I started going back to therapy. And I went to the VA hospital personally. I was like, hey, man, I'm jacked up. They're like, hey, well, good news. You'll get a therapist, but it's going to take 12 months. And I was like, I don't know if you heard me. I need somebody now.
And you got to do that with the VA sometimes. Yeah.
You have to put the pressure on. And they outsourced it to the therapist, Luigi Pacheco. Shout out, man. I did the EMDR therapy for over a year, man. And for the first 4 or 5 months was weekly. And EMDR is the rapid eye movement where you're following the thing, like all that stuff. It brought out a lot of trauma. But that released something in me, man. Like, no joke, after the first 2 sessions, I was throwing up black, right? Because the body keeps the score. My gut, I could feel it untight.
I know that feeling.
Dude, it was such a blessing. Like, it was so hard to grow through.
Yeah.
Now that I've gone through it, man, like, I've given my life back to Christ. I'm over 3 years clean off of coke, right? I'm engaged.
Congratulations,
now,
my brother.
And we're rocking steady. We're going to go to marriage counseling through our church and all that stuff. But I want people to know, like, you're one of the manliest dudes I know.
Oh, thank you, man.
I'm a pretty manly guy myself, right? And it's like, hey, man, we all have weaknesses, man. We got to go in there, turn the lights on in that closet, find those skeletons, bring them out.
Absolutely.
And get acquainted with them.
Absolutely.
Because they're never going to go away. However, they won't be stabbing you. They won't be hurting you as much if you face those. You got to front. You got to face the front, like get on the front line. Say, hey, I'm taking charge of my life. Yep. And I got to go somewhere dark.
You do. You got to go down to the dark place to refine that light. And you definitely don't want to pass it on. You got kids, Rich?
Not yet.
Okay. So for me, like, the big fear is to pass it on to the next generation, right? And I think that's another thing that kind of motivates me to keep going and seeking help sometimes when I need it is my daughter 1 year seen me get put in the ambulance 3 times in 1 week because of panic attacks. Literally.
I'm sorry, bro.
No, I mean, it happens, man. It's okay. Like, it happens. Like, I literally 1 week 3 times in a row got picked up. And I never understood, and these are for people that's had panic attacks before. I never understood when people used to tell me, bro, I have had panic attacks so bad I couldn't leave the house. I always thought that was unrealistic. But that's me. That's my perception, my ignorance. I didn't understand. And that last one I had, I literally, when I walked out the house, I literally couldn't breathe. I go, oh shit, this is what they're talking about. And it was the weirdest feeling in the world. And I bring it all up to say is my daughter was exposed to that. And my kids were exposed to that. And I'm sure, I've had talks with them over the years. I'm sure that might be something that they may have to go through in therapy. Like, I remember that time my dad was just off the wall that 1 week, and he was just, and it affected me. So I don't want to pass it on to the next generation. So again, I'm a big component of therapy. I'm a big component of talking amongst your peers to figure out how to get that gut feeling out of your body. There's a release you need, whether it's crying through it, right? Whether it's sleeping, whatever the outtake is. You've got to do something, man. Get that outlet out. It's needed. It's a necessity.
I love it, man. I love it. So you've been training for this jiu-jitsu competition coming up, man. Yeah. Tell me through that.
Master Worlds, man. It's pretty cool. It's the first time I'm gonna do it. It's in Las Vegas. It's happening from this Thursday to Saturday. It's gonna be people from all over the world. I got people from Brazil, Japan, Hawaii. I got 4 people on my bracket, so I've got to win the first 5 matches to make it to gold. Okay. If I do that and I place top 3, I think they have what you call an absolute bracket. So the top 3 of each weight division gets put in this own separate bracket. So guys that are weighing 120 could be battling dudes that are 300 plus.
Old school UFC, baby. Let's go.
It's kind of cool. So just been kind of training for that tournament. And I do those things not necessarily for the glory at all. I do it, 1, for just to keep in shape. 2, I just need mountains to climb. It just kind of keeps my mind sharp. I hope I'm going to win it. I'm striving to win it. But if I don't put goals like that in front of me, I get kind of stagnant. And so I always got to kind of push myself a little bit. And this is one thing I love to do. So pushing this on me is not something I have to twist my own arm for. But yeah, I love it, man. I love that world. So shout out to the Moreno brothers over there at Lincoln, Chewy and Manny, great people, phenomenal coaches. I just love the atmosphere they bring. So yeah, man, Master Worlds, bro. Yeah. This week is going to be cool.
That's awesome, man. I can't wait to see how you do.
Yep.
Yeah,
keep
me
awesome.
Updated on it. I see a lot I used to train jiu-jitsu a lot. I was training at Alpha Male for a while.
Okay,
Chris Holdsworth before he branched off and has his academy now and everything like that. And I found through jiu-jitsu, man, like you say in wrestling, like you find this competition, you find people that you can relate with or whatever, and you're putting your body to the test. And it's such a great release, man. What else do you get out of training combat sports?
Man, just like wrestling, it keeps the mind sharp, for sure. Especially when you're getting choked out. You know what I mean? You're sitting there, you're like, man, this dude's choking the hell out of me right now. And then you get the release. There's a release. I don't know if it's I'm not a science biology guy. I don't know if it's a release of the endorphins, but I don't know, man. I guess it's kind of creepy to say, like, you get choked down, you get a release of endorphins. But no, seriously, like there's a mental release of going out there and just putting your body through a little rough patch, because you don't come out unscathed when you do jiu-jitsu. You're going to be sore the next day. You're going to have some twists. You're going to have some injuries, but that's the whole thing. I just keep going because I need it.
Yeah, I did a competition. I had a grade 3 tear in my quad, and I competed on it.
Yeah. Right? Well, you're a beast for that one, bro.
Yeah, so I finished that up. I did lose, and then I went back, and so I rested up my leg because I had a bruise. All of my thigh was bruised, and it drained down to my leg, so my whole leg was covered. I had a grade 3 tear here. Luckily, none of my tendons were torn in my knee or my hip. It was all laceration right in here.
Well, how did you do that?
Well, it was from training. I'm not exactly sure. And then playing kickball as well. I was super active. I don't know where I first had the injury, but it just compounded. So I let that heal up. And then I go back training, and I was training at Half Gracie right here in Natomas. And I was passing my buddy Arturo's guard, and his shin scraped across my nose and broke my nose. And I went to a listing appointment the next day. I had 2 black eyes. I was like, bro, I got to calm down a little bit, dude. This is too much. Let me take a beat. I've been talking to Arturo forever about getting back, man, because I love the sport. It's just creating the time in the life where, I mean, I golf, I hunt, I fish. We're doing the podcast. We're selling real estate. We're doing investing, right? I got a relationship. I got God in my life. Like, man, where does jiu-jitsu fall into that for me?
And it's okay if it doesn't fall into place because, for one, like you said, you've got a lot of things going on and just what's your passion. If it's deer hunting is this and jiu-jitsu doesn't have a place, and it doesn't have a place, it's okay too. Like, I understand there's certain things that I wanted to do, but I don't do because I just don't have the time for it. And I like the things that I do now. So, yeah, man, if jiu-jitsu is not the thing for you right now because you have other passions, hey, I get it, man.
I'm sharing with everybody so they know, like, hey, you got to know when your plate's full.
Right.
Are your eyes bigger than your stomach? And right now, some of it is.
Yeah, right.
It's a little complicated. Right. So, all right, cool. Let's trim the fat here. And what do I want to really digest?
Right, exactly.
Yeah. So, you got this competition coming up. What's your sights after that as far as jiu-jitsu is concerned?
I like to go train for this tournament called ADCC.
Okay.
It's one of the, for people that don't know about jiu-jitsu, it was considered the biggest tournament, and it's really kind of a no-holds bar. Like, there's no belt limit. You can be a white belt and go and train and go into this competition with black belts and things that you can't do at a normal tournament. Like this tournament, IBJJF, I can't pronounce it. There's too many letters in there. But
alphabet soup.
Yeah, alphabet soup. There are certain things you can't do, like a heel hook and things like that. It's only meant for black belts or even brown belts and above.
Yep.
This type of tournament, there is no belt system, and all goes. So you can be getting heel hooked, ankle, knee barred, all of the things that would be considered illegal in other tournaments. So that's a tournament I think I'm striving to do, just another mountain to try to climb. And so that's the one I'm probably going to do next year. I'll have to go to West Coast Trials, and you got to at least take first. And I believe that even if you take first, you still got to get invited to ADCC. So that's just something that I just want to strive for, something that seems unattainable, but I'm going to go in there and just kind of give it my best. So that's kind of the next goal for that one.
Set those goals and keep marching forward. Maybe you get it this year, maybe it's next year.
Yeah.
But having that keeps you hungry, keeps you going forward.
Exactly.
I dealt with something like that when I bought my first house. My only goal in life was to buy a house by 30. My real parents never owned one. So I bought my house at 26. I had no goals, dude. No goals.
Yeah.
And I just instantly tanked. Like, there was nothing really there to set forth. I hit the goal and it was like, oh, that's it. So now every day, every week, I'm like, all right, what am I going to do this week? How many appointments do I need to set? How many times do I need to get in the gym? Am I doing a fast this week, right? Because I do a fast every month, right? So it's always keeping that next that next piece and moving the goalposts forward.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. Got to have something to go for. It's like, or as your body starts shutting down.
Yeah.
Or your mind starts shutting down. Yeah. I'm going to be one of them dudes that like, let me hear the people that retire. They're like, oh, as soon as you retired, he died in 2 years. Because you stop moving. People they just finally sit down. And it's like, nah, man, I'm going to keep moving until these wheels fall off, baby.
Right. Let's go, baby. To the top.
To the top.
Absolutely, man. So in our panel the other week, you'd mentioned what you're doing this year. I know you've had a transitional period over the last year or so.
Yeah.
And what happened and what are you doing now?
Yeah, so last year, we kind of talked about this before this started. I won't throw any names, and I'm definitely not mouthing this person at all. We separated amicably. Hope I said that verbiage correctly. It was a test of friendship. It was a test of business. It was a growth period for sure. We were working with investors and taking their money and finding properties in the Midwest, walking them through the acquisition process to getting the contractor, managing the construction, facilitating that, working with property managers, getting tenants in, and then handing the product over, which would be a house, to the investor for a certain return. That was eye-opening for me. That's totally different than regular real estate, buying and selling. You're not just saying, I'm moving a $500,000 house. Like, no, I'm moving $500,000 with a guarantee X, Y, and Z that I promised. And so we definitely made some bumps along the way. I think for us, there was just a difference of how we wanted to run the business. We're 50-50 in it. And again, I'm not going to badmouth them. We just had to go our separate ways. And so we left separately. And I took that whole year, I didn't really sell. I sold maybe 2 homes in regular buy and selling real estate. I was just solely focused on that. And then when that kind of spiraled to whatever it was, I had to jump back in the game. I had to restart kind of that rolling ball of prospecting and getting the warm leads and moving forward. But learning that lesson over there, I kind of transferred over. I had way more confidence. Like, no, I know way more about real estate than I ever had in my life. So now buying and selling to me just became much easier. I just was more confident in what I was saying. I think that resonated a lot with the clients. And so we're on track. I said at the panel, we're on track to do 24. We literally just closed 2 properties a week and a half ago. We have 2 in contract right now. I have 1 listing going on in Roseville. We just got done with a listing appointment, which we'll bring that on in a couple weeks. And I've got 4 active buyers, and I'm still kind of growing on that. So that's been kind of cool.
You did something phenomenal right there. And I hope every business owner listen to what you just said. You know every moving piece right now. You know your numbers. You have 4 active buyers. You have a listing coming up in 2 weeks. You have this listing coming up this week, right? You just closed 2. You know your numbers.
Yep.
And in business, that is one of the most overlooked things. I experience this as well. How many contacts are you making? How many contacts to make an appointment? Where are the leads coming through? How many open houses do I have to do a month? How many door knocks do I have to do a week, right? To make sure that I reach this end goal over here of whatever financial number I want to make.
Yep.
Right?
Absolutely.
And you just did a phenomenal thing. And I think every new business owner or somebody looking to get into business is understand your numbers, what it takes, right? And you became an expert in real estate going the investment world. And that's something I've done as well is, hey, look, I have so many different opportunities. I go to a listing appointment now and we have several different options for you. Hey, we have a cash purchase idea. We have this, we have novations, we have subject to, we have seller finance. We have all these different creative ways of getting the deal done in such a market where you kind of need that.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
And what you've done too is set yourself up in these groups that have these conversations, these high-level conversations about real estate, right? Anybody can sign some documents.
Right.
You know how to express what the seller wants, what the seller needs, what the buyer wants, what the buyer needs are, and walk them through all of these legal documents, right?
Right. And that's the thing. People don't reckon. Those that have never bought a house, I think those are the most people that have comments, like they got to get rid of realtors. And I don't want to make this podcast about that subject, but it's always seems like it's always been the thing. Like realtors are not necessary. Yeah, you tell that to a first-time home buyer when they got 2,000 pages in front of them and they calling you 24/7. Like, what does this mean? What does this mean? Why am I signing this? And then they recognize right off the bat, like, oh yeah, I need some real professional help, and there's the value.
I'm closing 1 today and 1 tomorrow. Both first-time home buyer. Well, Actually, the one tomorrow isn't a first-time home buyer, but it's been over 14 years since their last purchase, right? One's a Marine veteran, right? Shout out, baby. Let's go Veterans.
But,
yeah. Cool. Man, I love our camaraderie, baby. That's it. It's brotherly love for sure. But, closing these deals, and they're like, oh, what about this, and this? Walking through, they're like, how do you know all this? And it's just through drastic levels of experience, like doing it myself personally, and then also getting scripted, getting knowledgeable and everything, watching videos and listening to my broker talk and all that stuff and be like, oh, what does this mean? Okay, let me get with title. What does that mean? Okay, cool. Here it is. This is, you're okay. Or you could put an easement on this property, fix this scenario so the buyer can close on the transaction, whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
And especially now with the new NAR settlement, like, hey, how are you going to pay a buyer's agent?
Yeah.
Right? Oh, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Well, just right now, I can tell you, when you're talking to Nick or someone like me, there's a lot of moving pieces, and understanding them and being able to explain them as somebody that doesn't live in this world is a very challenging thing, especially who's the type of person you deal with. Is it a driver? Is it a C type? Is it an I type? Like, who is it?
And that's the communication skills that people don't take in consideration as well. You need to develop how to communicate and how to listen. Actually, I think that's a big one. I know I still have the tendency of talking too much, so you could let me know. Shut up, Nick. But my wife is always, my mom always said, even a kid too, Nick, you need to learn how to slow down. You need to learn how to open your ears. So that's a big thing I think I took too this year was I listen more. Even though I like to talk, and when I have the opportunity, I will jump on talking, but I got to sit and just be calm, hear what they have to say, digest it, and then come back with an answer instead of just flying off the handle. But yeah, that NAR settlement, man,
I love it.
That's a touchy subject, I think, for a lot of people as far as agents go in the industry. I've been told by agents, I'm leaving, I'm out of here. And it seems to be the real veteran, salty agents that's been in the game for 30 plus years. They're like, I'm done with this. But I truly believe that, this is just another notch on the belt. Like, there's always going to be a shift, man. You got to you got to roll with the punches.
Absolutely. Yeah. You got to roll with it, man. This is how I'm going to provide for my family. This is what I want to, this is the vessel to get me where I want to go. 100%. So let me be a master at it and show you why I'm worth this. Are you
having trouble with the listing agents giving commission right now?
No.
Okay.
No.
I'm still offering mine on my listing.
Yeah. I still put it out there. So I do have sellers that say, hey, I don't want to offer any buyer's agent commission. Good news, you don't have to, except that they come in unrepresented.
Right.
Cool. You have this option to pay me more for the services for the buyer to make sure that they're protected as well. As far as getting, so I charge what I charge, right? Yep. And legally, we're not supposed to talk about it right now, so I'm not putting out numbers, right? And I say, hey, look, I'm going to request that the seller pay this. If they don't, you're going to be responsible. Here's what's going to happen. Just like a request for repair. They're going to say yes, no, or some.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah.
These are the three options, right? In which case, we got to make sure you're suitable to pay me, right? Make sure that it's worth your time and value. And some buyers have started, okay, well, we're not going to pay you anything. We're going to definitely request it from the seller. The seller comes back and says, hey, I'm only going to pay so much. And the buyer's like, cool. Yeah, dude, we got you. Because by the time we've got to that point, that trust is earned. Because we're meeting people at open houses. We're cold calling people. Our relationship is built on a 5-minute conversation at an open house or a 10-minute conversation on the phone, if you can keep them on that long, right? And it's built right there. Yeah. And so when you're talking about listening more, right? I love the quote, observe, don't absorb.
Love that.
Right? Observe. Pay attention to what's going on. You don't have to absorb it. If it resonates with you, absorb it 100% and then relate to it. But observe, watch, listen, right? And listen with your eyes too, because you can read the body language, right? You got it. Yeah. So I haven't really come up with any different scenarios. I've had them say, hey, Rich, I know you're asking for this much in common practice. This is what we were willing to. Can you work with that? Yeah, absolutely. It's about the client at the end of the day, and cool. I already notified him. Hey, they're gonna have to come up. You're gonna come out of pocket this much, but they're willing to cover this much. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Rich, that's awesome.
Yeah,
right.
And I've showed about 20 houses this last week, and I still haven't ran into a problem with commissions yet.
Right.
They're still giving them, so I don't think it's gonna make a big dent as most people think. I think most, I mean, like I said, even when I had my listing, I explained to them, we need to offer, be prepared to offer something.
Seller
right?
willing to consider.
Yeah.
That's what you put.
Yep. So, I think, I don't think people need to be too afraid out there, I think, with this situation.
Yeah, and if you're afraid, you just need to get more knowledge.
Yeah, exactly, right? I guess maybe that's why I'm not tripping. I already got the knowledge of the mind. I've got the experience. So I'm not really worried about whether or not I can talk my way into something. Not, obviously not talk my way into getting the client's money, but just in the sense of I have enough knowledge to show value.
Show value. Yeah. That's all you can do. We're in a service industry.
Yeah, service.
And I think a lot of agents do forget that. And every part of life should be about serving.
Yep.
To some extent. For your kids, for your wife, for your business, for yourself. How are you serving everyone, right? And what I've done is I've changed my mindset to, okay, how am I serving this person? How am I serving in this relationship? And there's always something, like you said, when you debrief, there's always something, right? And how do we get better at it, you know? But don't beat yourself up, give some grace, be like, okay, well, maybe next time I'll do this, Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. And service is the key. And I said that when we had that talk, service. When I really zone in on that, I don't really worry about the money. It'll come.
Right.
I'll give you an example. I have a client that we're talking to. It's got a possible listing. Again, I'm not going to throw any names. I don't know why I keep saying that. I think because I'm in front of camera, I'm like, I got to watch out what I say. But I met with this individual. I met with both the individuals. Okay, I walk in the house. Me and my partner, we go through this listing appointment. And I meet the wife just very briefly. Hello, how you doing? She goes in the kitchen, kind of does her thing. The husband walks us around. We talk to him. Okay, we're asking what do you think the price is. He was like, oh, let's go outside and talk. Well, all right. So we go out and talk, but we're very kind of in the corner. I'm not exactly sure what's going on. So, all right, I don't really think much of it because there's nothing else to think of. So then, all right, so we leave, and he's like, yeah, I'll sign this. We're going to sell. Okay. The wife calls us. Hey, I want to tell you some things. This person, my husband's not in the right mind. Does drugs, he's doing this. And I'm like, oh man, sorry to hear that. And so she's like, but look, here's the situation. I want to keep it. We're not going to stay together. I'm needing him out the house. I'm like, look, that's not really what I do. Like, I'm not really, maybe you should go to some counseling because I'm not really understanding the situation here. I said, all right, you know what? I said, why don't you give me an hour? Let me think about what you're telling me and let me just digest this. So I go back, sit there for an hour, start doing more research, right, on the house. Because I didn't have time at the time after she called us. So as I do more research, I realized there was a quit claim deed already done. Last year, he quit claimed this whole house to his wife. I say, hey, let's meet for lunch tomorrow. So I go out, we meet for lunch. And that's what I like to do most of my business over food. I don't know why. It feels for me, it's calmer for me. And I think it's calmer for a client, to kind of eat over talking. And she didn't even know it was quit claim to her.
Wow.
She had no idea that this property was her property. And now I'm sitting here and she's like, well, what are my options? What can I do? Come to find out, she's saying he's very abusive, hits her, all this stuff. So and again, I'm saying all these things to kind of the service, right? And now it's not even about the money. It's not even about the listing. I'm like, man, how can I help you in this situation? And so we've been giving her options. Hey, you can do a refund. And again, and kudos to her. She wasn't even bad-mouthing him a lot. She was like, hey, 5 years ago, he went through an injury. That injury caused some problems. He got deep into unfortunately, some drugs.
Yeah.
He did work his ass off for the last 30 years. He did help me pay this house off. I still want to give him half of whatever he deserves, and he can go his separate ways. So I respect that about her. Obviously, I understand that she can't be in that situation anymore. So right now, we believe that the best option may be that she needs to do a cash out refi. She wants to keep the house. She gives his money. He goes a separate way. I'm not making anything off that.
Right.
Nothing. I'm not a broker. I'm not a loan guy. But I'm not also can't go home and go to sleep and say, damn, I'm just forgetting. Well, there's no money coming out of it, so I'm not going to help her.
Right.
I end up getting her to the loan officer, who's a woman who went through the same situation. And so she was passionate, like, no, let's figure this out. So everyone's working right now on this team to help out this one client to get out of a bad situation. So again, like you said, service.
Right.
Will I probably get a deal from her later? Maybe, maybe not. But I guarantee you she'll probably always remember us.
Right.
And I may probably get a deal out of that, but that's not what I was looking. I'm just saying It's the service. Service your clients, service your people, listen what you have to say, and shit will work out.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. I love that story, brother, because it happens more often than people think. In our industry, we meet so many different people of walks of life, different living arrangements, different relationships, and all that. And you listened, right? And he signed a listening agreement he couldn't even sign.
Right.
He's not even on title.
Not even on title.
We're not even on title. Yeah, I'm happy that you're able to help her, man. And one thing I say too is like people will never remember what you do for them. Yeah. And they'll always remember how you made them feel. And this woman's not even trashing her soon-to-be ex or anything like that. She's like, man, a TBI will jack you up. Yeah. This isn't the same person I married, right? I need some help here. And kudos, man. Kudos. Man. God is good.
Yeah, absolutely. God is good, bro. God is good.
Absolutely, brother. Well, awesome. I know you've got plenty more to talk about. I want to have you.
I already warned you, bro. I can talk all day.
Absolutely, brother. I could do this all day with you, bro. But I'd love to know, a book that changed your life that you recommend everybody read.
Yeah. And I thought about this, and I'm going to say the Bible, but here's the deal, though. I'm not going to say like, oh, just read the Bible. There is a specific book that I'm going to recommend most people read personally that helped me change. It's Ecclesiastics, okay? And if people don't know anything about Ecclesiastics, they don't know, there's quite a few different books that they don't know who the author is, but there is a good assumption that the author of Ecclesiastes is Solomon. And if people don't know who Solomon is, he was this one that was asked, what do you want from the Lord? I guess paraphrase and just kind of give people a short story. And he was bestowed the gift of wisdom that gave mad wealth, mad knowledge, right? So he goes through all this. And let me just kind of sum up Ecclesiastics of how I read it. It's about a man, okay, an individual who's pretty much, he explains this right off the bat. He's had everything a man could desire, whether it was women or wealth or riches or land, okay? And it's almost like he has a midlife crisis. Okay? He has a question to himself. Nothing, it's all, for the first chapter, it's all meaningless. Like things are meaningless. I've seen good things happen to bad people, right? I've seen the bad person get away with good things. I've seen people toil their whole life to give it to somebody who destroyed the empire that they built. And so there's a question in this man's mind of what is this life about? And I take that as like this person's going through a midlife crisis. And I was explaining this to my cousin the other day, what I believe a midlife crisis is. It's not that you're thinking about, I should be rich or why this. It starts to be, you slow down in your 30s, right? So if you read the New Testament of Jesus, he didn't really start preaching until he was in his 30s. There was 33? There's a maturity level. And those are the real questions start hitting you, I think, when you hit those 30s and you don't know the answer to that. And so when I tell people to read Ecclesiastic, it's about a guy who I believe is going through a midlife crisis. Not a midlife crisis, there's a question he still cannot answer. He's got everything. Why am I feeling this way still? And so at the end, he pretty much said there's nothing new under the sun. Hey, look, man, there's time to be mad. There's going to be a time to be sad. There's going to be a time to be angry. There's going to be a time to do this. There's always going to be something. You have no control of this. So let it go. Live your best life. Be the best version you can. He says, don't be lazy. Get up and work. Work every day. Work towards being a good person. Don't worry about nothing else. Because he gives one big example in there. He talks about how you can build all these riches and you can either give it to your son or give it to the next CEO in line and he's going to destroy it. So what was the difference of worrying about it? So I bring that to people to say that book gave me a relief. It was more of a human concept for me rather more than a spiritual thing. You know what I mean? Because obviously you read to different Bibles in the Testament, more of a spiritual thing. But for that calmed me down really well. So if I recommend anybody to read a certain book in the Bible, it's going to be Ecclesiastes.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Yep. I'm reading Acts right now.
Acts that's another good book. Yeah.
It's awesome. I can't put it down.
Yeah. Another good book.
Yeah. Do you have another book recommendation? And maybe somebody doesn't want to pick up the good book.
I'm reading this right now. Okay. Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss, and it's basically about an FBI agent who was a top international negotiator, whether it's kidnapping or anything like that, bank robberies. And I know most people will say, read this book, it'll change your life. I'm not exactly sure if this is the book for me right now. And I don't think most people say that, right? And it's about this, how you talk to people. For an example, like one of his examples is try to get the no instead of the yes. He gives an example to say, hey, are you against me coming to go talk to you? Well, no, I'm not against you talking to me. Okay, great. Let me come and talk to you. Instead of getting a yes answer, you get a no answer. And I'm saying all this to say I'm not exactly sure if this is what I need to service my clients, right? I was recommended by this book by somebody else who does a lot of listings. Mm-hmm. This is when you get on the phone, you're cold calling. This is how you need to kind of get the answer or elicit the answer you're looking for. I'm just not exactly sure that's what I want to do, if that makes sense, right? I don't want to elicit something. I don't want to drive you. This is personally me, right? This is for everyone is a different example. I don't want to drive you into something that you feel that I made you say that. And I don't want to feel that way. So I'm not exactly sure if these tactics are for me. I think it is for some people, though. I think I will recommend this book of people who maybe have a problem communicating, right? They give good examples about listening there. He gives a whole chapter about him sitting of this guy who was a bank robber. He didn't talk to him for 6 hours, and he kept asking the same, but he kept listening, kept listening. So I take some good nuggets out of it. Do I recommend this book? It just depends what you're looking for. If you're looking for something to help you with your communication, I think it'd be great for you. Or it may not be great for you, but yeah, I would say that's a good book to read. I don't know if that
I love your opinion on that, dude. I love your opinion on that. But I think that book is amazing. I do want to reread it again this year. But
so you know it?
Yeah, I know Never Split the Difference. I love that book.
Okay.
It's good. Hopefully it helps you. You know,
Yeah.
I always think like in a book, if I can find one or two great things out of it, then it's a great book.
Right.
Like I only need one thing.
Yeah.
Right. We go to these conventions or we listen to these podcasts. I mean, even my podcast. If you just get one good nugget, take that nugget and run.
Oh, for sure.
You know what I mean?
For
Write
sure.
it down, like see how you can relate to it, put it in your life. But that is a really good book.
And I did get a couple nuggets from it. I'm not gonna say I'm not getting anything from it. Mm-hmm. I think when it was recommended for me, it was supposed to be, hey, when you read this, your business will explode.
Right.
Like you will get that new kind of...
Right. Wear this copper bracelet and all your problems go away.
Like you're good. And so maybe I had too much that I was going to get from this book. And I'm like, okay, this is good, but I think I need something else, you know. But I would recommend it, though. Yeah. Absolutely.
As a man of faith here, and I see a lot of my friends in faith, and I see a lot of people moving into Jesus and everything. Mm-hmm. The fact that you're willing to say the Bible... Rock off, baby.
All good, man.
Let's go.
Yeah, absolutely.
And last question for you here today, brother. It's been such an honor to get to know you more and all this
appreciate
stuff.
It, man.
This is just the beginning.
Thank you for having me here, bro.
Absolutely. And what's one piece of advice you give anybody in the world today?
Man, I gave this advice to my son the other day. Don't be too hard on yourself. It's okay to kind of sit back and just understand that things are not going the way you don't want it to go. And it's okay to have emotions. It's okay to express those emotions, but don't be too hard on yourself. There will be a time that you need to push yourself, but man, you're your own worst critic, as most people say, and that can put you down a rabbit hole that you do not want to go down. So don't be too hard on yourself. Give yourself more credit than you think you deserve. Oh, no, not that you think you deserve, that you do deserve. Give more credit than you do deserve. So
I love it, man. Love you, brother. Thanks for coming on,
love
bro.
you guys too, man. Appreciate it.